Things have gone from bad to worse at Rangers, and now, the alarm bells are ringing louder than ever. It's not just the fans venting on social media anymore, or the usual grumblings you hear when results take a dip. No, this time it's official. The very group the club set up to bridge the gap between supporters and decision-makers has dropped a bombshell. The Rangers Fan Advisory Board, launched less than a year ago with promises of giving supporters a proper voice inside the club, has just released a statement calling for the immediate dismissal of manager Russell Martin. And they weren't subtle about it either. This isn't some vague concern or polite suggestion wrapped in PR jargon. The message was sharp, direct, and, frankly, impossible to ignore. They said, and I quote, "Irrespective of the result on Sunday, it is clear to us the manager should be replaced as a matter of urgency before our justified anger gives way to apathy." That's not just criticism. That's a red line being drawn in bold ink. Now, let's take a step back here. Remember when this fan advisory board was announced in November of last year? The club made a big show of it, talking about transparency, collaboration, and how this group would be instrumental in shaping the future of Rangers. We were told there'd be regular meetings with top executives, that supporters' concerns would finally be heard at the highest levels. It was supposed to rebuild trust and bring the fans closer to the club, especially after years of feeling like their voice didn't matter. But here we are, less than 12 months on, and that very same body is demanding a managerial change. Not suggesting, not recommending, demanding. That tells you everything you need to know about the mood right now. There's no faith in the project. The results have been dire, yes, but it's more than that. The style of play is toothless, the energy is flat, and the fans, who pour their money, time, and emotion into this club, are being asked to sit and watch a team that's drifting further and further away from what Rangers is supposed to be. We're talking about a club that prides itself on competing at the highest level, not just domestically but in Europe. There's a standard here, a history, a weight that comes with the badge. Right now, that feels completely lost. When the fan advisory board says, "Before our justified anger gives way to apathy," that line hits hard. Because anger, at least, means people care. They're still emotionally invested. But apathy? That's the real danger. That's when fans start staying home. That's when they stop renewing their season tickets. That's when they stop believing the club is worth fighting for. And that's not just a problem for Russell Martin. That's a crisis for the entire club hierarchy. And make no mistake, this lands squarely at the feet of the board. They created this advisory body. They gave it legitimacy. And now that it's publicly calling for the manager's head, the board can't just brush it aside. Doing nothing would be a massive risk, not just for this season, but for the long-term relationship between the club and its supporters. You can't ask for fans' input, then completely ignore them the moment it becomes uncomfortable. Let's be honest. We've seen clubs across Europe taking steps to formally involve supporters. Look at Borussia Dortmund in Germany, where fan representation is woven into the fabric of the club. Rangers wanted to follow that model, at least in theory. But the difference is, those clubs take fan feedback seriously. And now Rangers have reached a tipping point. The supporters have had enough, and the message could not be clearer. And it's not like this comes out of nowhere. The past few weeks have been nothing short of disastrous. 3 draws in the domestic league, already 6 points behind Celtic after only 3 games. That alone is worrying. But then came the European collapse. A humiliating 6-0 defeat to Club Brugge, and to be honest, it could have been even worse. The performance was shambolic. Basic errors. No structure. No fight. No leadership on the pitch. It was a complete capitulation, and that's not something you associate with a club of Rangers' stature. Then we hear Russell Martin in the post-match interview trying to make sense of it all, saying the group feels the weight of it, that they're struggling to shake off the pressure. He admitted the loss was unacceptable and even painful. That's fair. But when you're the manager, it's your job to fix it. And right now, nothing looks fixed. In fact, things look broken. He talked about how they've qualified for the Europa League under tough circumstances, and sure, that's true. But you don't get a free pass because of that. Not when you're getting battered on European nights and the gap in the league is widening by the week. He said the group is not strong enough yet, that they crumble under pressure, that it's all self-inflicted pain. But that just raises more questions. Why isn't this group strong enough? Why are they making the same mistakes over and over again? Where's the improvement? And then there's the fan reaction. the boos, the chants calling for him to be sacked. This isn't just a vocal minority anymore. This is widespread. The fans are disillusioned. They're angry, and they're not buying the excuses anymore. Even Martin himself acknowledged that. He said he understands their frustration, their disappointment, their anger. Because, in his words, they love this club and want to see a team they're proud of. But the thing is, understanding the frustration isn't enough. That frustration has to be met with action, with change. Otherwise, it just festers. There was a small moment of praise, as he singled out James Tavernier for showing leadership during the game. Fair enough. But that one moment doesn't change the bigger picture. One or two players showing heart doesn't fix a squad that looks lost and disconnected. Martin says leadership is going to be crucial going into Sunday's Old Firm. But at this point, it feels like empty words. And let's not forget what Sunday is. The first Old Firm of the season. Celtic at Ibrox. A fixture that carries weight, history, fire. But Rangers are limping into it. They've just been embarrassed in Europe. They're already chasing in the league. Confidence is shattered. And the mood in the stands? Absolutely toxic. This is not how you want to be preparing for the biggest domestic fixture of the campaign so far. It's reached a point now where the only thing that can calm this storm is action. Not words. Not promises of improvement. Not talk of the process or the journey. Supporters want results. They want performances that reflect the shirt. They want accountability. And right now, they don't feel like they're getting any of that. Instead, they're watching a manager cling to hope while the team spirals. And just to pile on the chaos, let's talk about the transfer front. Because even there, things are frantic. The club has agreed a deal with Girona to bring in striker Bojan Majovski, with a fee that could rise above £4 million. That comes right after Hamza Igamain, who only arrived last year, refused to come off the bench during the draw with Street Miran, and then didn't even travel to Belgium. He's now off to Lille for over £10 million. That kind of situation tells you there's something very wrong behind the scenes. When players are refusing to play and getting shipped out within a year, it doesn't speak well to squad harmony or planning. And while Majovski's name has been floated all summer, the fact that deals are being rushed through now, at the tail end of the window, screams desperation. Especially with uncertainty hanging over guys like Cyril Dessers, who the club rejected offers for earlier in the window, but may now be open to selling. It's a mess. Pure and simple. There's no other way to say it. The transfer window closes soon, and the next few days could define not just the rest of the season, but the future of this managerial era. If there even is a future. Because let's be real, Russell Martin is hanging by a thread, and now that thread is being tugged by the very people the club empowered to speak on behalf of the fans. So now, all eyes turn to the board. Do they double down and back their man? Or do they listen to the voices they claimed to value when they created this advisory group? Because one thing is absolutely certain. Silence or inaction is no longer an option. Not after a public, formal, and damning statement like that. Not when the fan base is teetering between outrage and complete apathy. The next move belongs to the board. And whatever they decide, it better not be business as usual. Now let's talk about what this means for the dressing room. Because amid all the noise from the stands, the boardroom, and the media, there's still a squad of players that has to walk back into training every morning and try to convince themselves they can turn this around. And let's be honest, you don't need to be a footballing genius to see the mood is on the floor. This isn't a team full of belief or unity. This is a group second-guessing every pass, second-guessing each other, and worst of all, probably second-guessing the guy standing in front of them on the touchline every weekend. When a team looks this disjointed, this vulnerable, you have to ask where the leadership is, not just from the dugout, but inside the dressing room too. The fact that Russell Martin came out and said the group isn't strong enough yet, that their response to setbacks is poor, it's a brutal admission, but also a bit of a red flag. Because if your own manager doesn't believe the squad has the mental strength to deal with adversity, that's a recipe for disaster in Glasgow. There's no hiding here. One bad result turns into a headline. 2. And the pressure's unbearable. And right now, this team can't handle either. You look at the core of this squad and you ask, who's standing up in moments of chaos? Who's dragging others with them when the heads go down? Tav is one name we've heard, and he deserves credit for showing character in that Brugge nightmare. But beyond him, it's slim pickings. There's a lack of fire, a lack of identity. And it's not just down to experience or talent. It's mentality. Rangers teams of the past, even when they weren't the best technically, always had a fight in them. This group looks timid, passive. They're not grabbing games by the scruff of the neck. They're hoping someone else will. And that takes us back to Russell Martin, because whether he likes it or not, he's the one who's set the tone. He's brought in these players. He's coached them, trained them, picked them. If they're not showing the right mentality, it reflects directly on him. Maybe his message isn't getting through. Maybe they've already stopped buying into it. You can talk all day about structure and pressing and game models, but if the players don't believe in what you're building, it's over before it begins. Now, to be fair, it's not entirely his mess. He came into a club where the squad already had major gaps, and the pressure to win immediately is constant. But that's the gig. This is Rangers. You don't get a grace period here. You're judged on results and performances, and right now, both are miles off the mark. The recruitment this summer was supposed to push the club forward, but how many of those new faces have actually hit the ground running? How many have improved the team? We're already seeing exits and fallouts. Igamain refusing to play, Dessers possibly on the way out, the scramble to sign Majovski and others in the final hours of the window. That's not a plan. That's firefighting. And fans can smell it a mile off. They're not stupid. They know when a manager's losing the dressing room. They know when a club's winging it instead of building something sustainable. And right now, all the warning signs are flashing red. But let's shift to Sunday for a moment, because like it or not, this Old Firm derby has now taken on a whole new meaning. It's not just a match. It's a potential breaking point. A win could buy Russell Martin some time, even silence the critics for a week or two. But a defeat, especially a heavy one, that could be the final nail. And make no mistake, Celtic are licking their lips right now. They're watching all this chaos unfold from across the city, and they'll be fancying their chances of putting another dagger into Rangers' already wounded season. Can you imagine the atmosphere at Ibrox if Celtic go 2-0 up before halftime? The boos would be deafening. The pressure unbearable. It could get ugly fast. And for a manager already hanging by a thread, there may be no way back. That's the danger of letting things fester. By the time you act, the damage is already done. That's the risk the board is taking if they choose to back Martin blindly into this fixture. Of course, Martin is trying to stay composed. He said he has to keep working, stay focused, try to lift the group. Fair play. That's what any manager would say in this situation. But there's a difference between staying focused and being delusional. The fans don't want empty words. They want signs that someone's in control of this sinking ship. And right now, they're not seeing it. The fact that the club's own advisory board had to be the one to say what thousands of fans are already thinking just tells you how detached the leadership has become. And if you're a player in that dressing room, you've got to be feeling the weight of it too. You're walking into a stadium filled with expectation and fury, knowing that one mistake could tip everything over the edge. That's not a healthy environment to play in. That's not how you build confidence. But again, that's the reality. You're at Rangers. Pressure comes with the territory. You either rise to it, or it crushes you. Then there's the wider picture. If the board decides to pull the trigger, who comes in? Who takes over this fractured squad, with the window closing and a toxic mood all around the club? It's not exactly an appealing job right now. And that's part of the issue. The longer this drags out, the fewer options you're left with. No top manager wants to walk into a crisis unless they're backed properly. And if there's no clear direction from above, you're just setting the next guy up to fail. That's why this moment is so pivotal. It's not just about Russell Martin. It's about how Rangers sees itself moving forward. Do they want to be a club that listens to its fans, that respects the standards and expectations of one of the most passionate supporter bases in world football? Or do they want to be a club that turns inwards, protects its own, and hopes things magically improve? Because hope isn't a strategy. And patience, in this context, isn't a virtue. It's a luxury Rangers can't afford. Not when Celtic are 6 points ahead. Not when Europe has already turned into a humiliation. Not when the fans are talking about apathy instead of ambition. And look, nobody's pretending this is easy. Football's brutal. Managers fail, projects collapse, seasons go sideways. But the key difference is how you respond. Do you show humility, adapt, admit mistakes? Or do you double down and pretend everything's fine when the house is clearly on fire? Right now, we're watching a club teetering between those two extremes. There's still time to steady the ship, but that window is closing fast. The calls for change aren't whispers anymore. they're coming through loudspeakers. And if the club chooses to ignore them, they better be prepared for the consequences. Because once the fans switch off, once they stop caring, it's a longer road back than any manager, no matter how talented, can walk alone. This is more than a football issue. It's a club identity issue. It's a trust issue. And unless something changes fast, the fallout could shape Rangers for years to come. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. The whispers around Ibrox this week have grown louder, and for good reason, as the Rangers faithful are already buzzing about the arrival of the Serbian powerhouse VELJKO MILOSAVLJEVIC. In Glasgow, nothing travels faster than a transfer rumor, and this one has turned into something more than mere speculation. Reports suggest that the board has gone deep into their pockets to secure the future of the backline, paying what many are calling a small fortune for the towering defender. The name MILOSAVLJEVIC might not yet be household among the terraces, but those who follow continental football know that the young man has been making waves in Serbia for his no-nonsense defending, impeccable reading of the game, and a physical presence that opponents dread. The talk in pubs and on radio call-ins is whether this investment signals not just ambition but a new era of resilience in defense, something supporters have been crying out for after seasons of inconsistency at the back. Though nothing has been confirmed officially, the mere possibility has sent pulses racing, with fans already crafting chants and dreaming of a defensive wall clad in blue, anchored by the so-called Serbian wall, who could transform the team's fortunes. Glasgow is a city that thrives on football gossip, and when the name VELJKO MILOSAVLJEVIC is uttered, it feels as though a storm of anticipation gathers in every corner of the city. Rangers supporters are fiercely protective of their traditions and demand players who not only deliver on the pitch, but embody the fighting spirit of the club. The rumor of MILOSAVLJEVIC arriving fits perfectly with this ethos. He is described as a player who throws himself into tackles, wins aerial duels with authority, and never shirks responsibility when pressure mounts. In Serbia, he has already earned the reputation of a warrior, with journalists dubbing him the immovable wall. To bring such a presence to Ibrox suggests Rangers are looking not just to compete, but to dominate defensively, sending a message to domestic rivals and European challengers alike. Discussions in the local media suggest that the transfer fee was eye-watering, though exact numbers remain shrouded in mystery, adding to the intrigue. Some whisper that it is the highest fee spent on a defender in recent years at the club, a gamble perhaps, but one that supporters hope pays dividends. The atmosphere surrounding this potential deal is charged with cautious optimism and fierce curiosity. Those close to the corridors of power at Ibrox insist that this move is about more than simply plugging gaps in defense. It is about building a legacy. VELJKO MILOSAVLJEVIC is viewed by many as a long-term cornerstone, a player around whom future squads can be shaped. Comparisons have already been drawn to legendary defenders of the past, those who commanded the backline with authority and instilled fear in opponents. The Serbian style is said to combine raw aggression with intelligence, a blend that excites the tactically astute among the Rangers coaching staff. The anticipation extends beyond the club's faithful supporters, with pundits across Scotland debating whether this could be the signing that shifts the balance of power in the Premiership. Some argue that throwing such money at a relatively unproven name carries risk, while others believe bold moves are necessary if Rangers are to match ambitions with silverware. Meanwhile, fans dissect every training ground rumor, every leaked photo, every whisper of his arrival at Glasgow Airport, treating each morsel as confirmation that the Serbian wall is on his way. Such fervor is unique to football in this city, where expectation is almost as weighty as the badge itself. The dressing room dynamics also come under scrutiny as rumors of MILOSAVLJEVIC's arrival intensify. Defenders already on the books know that competition is the lifeblood of progress, but the thought of such a commanding figure joining the ranks can cause both excitement and unease. Those who have faced him describe an uncompromising figure, impossible to bully, and with a calmness under pressure that belies his age. Rangers supporters are imagining a backline reinvigorated, one where youthful energy merges with the discipline of veterans, creating a formidable shield in front of goalkeepers who have too often been left exposed. The Scottish press revel in such speculation, painting pictures of an Ibrox fortress where goals conceded become a rarity. Some former players have already weighed in, claiming this is exactly the kind of statement signing needed to match the club's ambition, particularly as they seek not only domestic dominance, but a stronger showing in European competitions. At pubs across the city, supporters debate where MILOSAVLJEVIC will fit tactically, whether he will adapt swiftly to the physicality of Scottish football, and if he possesses the leadership qualities to marshal the defense in the way fans crave. It is this blend of hope and doubt that keeps the rumor mill alive. What makes this developing saga even more captivating is the cultural symbolism of such a signing. Glasgow is a city of pride and tradition, where every new arrival is weighed against the legacy of those who came before. To hear that Rangers may have invested heavily in a young Serbian center-half is to imagine a future in which the team grows tougher, more united, and more feared. VELJKO MILOSAVLJEVIC represents more than just a footballer in this narrative. He is the embodiment of the supporters' desire for solidity, for assurance, and for a figure who can stand tall against any storm. As rumors swirl, the tension builds, with supporters desperate for an official announcement and rivals watching nervously from afar. Whether the Serbian wall proves to be as unbreakable as the whispers claim remains to be seen, but the mere possibility has reignited a spark at Ibrox. If the fortune spent does indeed secure a fortress at the back, then perhaps history will record this moment not just as another rumor, but as the dawn of a new defensive era in Rangers' proud and storied history. Until confirmation arrives, Glasgow will continue to buzz, restless and electric with anticipation. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.